So I have all my supplies ready and laid out. I have a paper plate to use as my palette to mix colors. You can see I have my colors already squeezed out onto the plate. I have my colors right next to me so I can easily grab them when I need them. And I have my color wheel drawn out, ready to be painted on. I have a cup of water in order to clean my brushes. Um, if any of you are interested, like if you like A Christmas Story during like the Christmas holidays, there's my Christmas Story themed cup. And a paper towel to help with some cleanup and to clean my brush between every color application onto the color wheel. So what I'm going to do is just dip my brush to load the bristle with paint, and I'm going to try to apply it evenly onto the surface as best as I can. You can see that I'm not mixing any color into the red. The red is directly from the tube, and I'm applying that red to the surface. Remember, the three primary colors cannot be mixed from any two color. They are the quintessential like colors that will be used to mix every color on the color wheel. So what I'm trying to do here is lay out, spread the paint as evenly as possible onto the surface. If I brush into the wet paint too much, I might end up lifting up the paint from the paper to reveal like the white paper again. So try to avoid that. If you find that it's becoming too hard to like paint layers because of the wet paint, then wait for it to dry and continue a new coat after it dries. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to rinse it through this cup of water, make sure all the excess paint is off the brush. I'm going to dab it onto my paper towel, make sure the water is squeeze out of the paper towel, or squeeze out of the bristle as best as possible, just so the water isn't soaking into any of the new paint we decide to use. So I'm gonna just lay out one more primary color just for you to see, because I feel like we kind of have the idea now that actually I'll just paint all three colors for y'all to see. So here's my blue primary color onto the surface. Again, wait for the first layer to dry before adding a new layer, just to give a nice like opaque coat onto the surface, and so we're not seeing too much of the white paper beneath each layer of paint. Gonna clean my brush again, take off all the excess blue paint, try to soak all the water into my paper towel as best as I can, and then we'll move on to the yellow. You want to make sure you got all the paint off of the bristle before you move into yellow, because any little bit of paint can really affect the color yellow, and will change its color immensely. So you want each of these primaries, any color that you lay onto this color wheel, you want it to be as pure as possible. There's my primary colors. In order to obtain your secondary colors, before I get to that, again, clean your brush, make sure all the paint's off the bristle, soak the water into the paper towel, and we'll move forward. To obtain your secondary colors, which is green, orange, and violet, the three colors that sit directly in between your primary, you'll mix a 1-to-1 ratio of two of your primary colors. So in order to obtain green, I'm going to take some yellow clean my brush to make sure, you know, there's no more yellow on my bristle before I dip my brush into the blue. I'm gonna take some blue, put it next to yellow, and begin mixing those two colors with my brush. And you wanna mix the two colors into each other evenly to where you're not seeing any more blue and any more yellow. You're gonna take the color you mix and you're gonna apply it to the green section of the color wheel. And one thing you notice, one thing you'll have to do is, like, you might try to have to modify, you know, the amount that you do mix together. You might find that you mix not enough. You might find that you mix way too much. So it just becomes a bit of a learning process, you know, as you're moving through each color. So again, one layer, wait for it to dry to add another one. So now I'm gonna move on to orange. I'm gonna make sure there's no more paint on my bristle. I'm gonna take a little bit of the yellow, put it in between the yellow and red. I'm gonna take a little bit of the red, put it next to my yellow. And then remember, I'm cleaning my brushes in between each, after every time my brush makes contact with a color before I move to a next color. And I'm gonna mix those two colors together with my brush in order to make the warmest color on the color spectrum or the color wheel, which is orange. And I'm going to apply that orange to the surface of my sketchbook page. Loaded some more because I'm running out. So we're almost done with the secondary. Now to create violet. You can see that there's just a little bit of orange there I'm trying to get rid of before I dip my brush into my blue paint. Alright, I'm going to take some blue paint, put it between my red and blue. Take my red paint, put it next to my blue, mix those two together in order to obtain a violet. I might be mixing, this might not be enough to cover this entire triangle, but we'll see. Nice. Bob Ross would probably say these are happy paint sections of color. I'm terrible behind the camera, y'all. Sorry. Can't even make a joke. So you can see I didn't have enough color to fill in that space. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean my brush. Again, take the blue, put it in my mixing spot, take the yellow, clean our brush, take the red, put it in the mixing spot, and make more violet. And apply. You can see I might have just a little bit too much water in my bristle. So now I gotta make sure next time I do my next layer to make this section a bit more opaque, I just have to make sure I'm not soaking up the water from my bristle enough. So there's your secondary and your primary hues on the color wheel. So now what I'm going to do is mix my tertiary colors. So the colors I have here right now, I can just add a little bit more yellow, a little bit more blue, a little bit more orange, a little bit more red to the secondaries I have already acquired. So for the orange, what I want to do is just add some more yellow to it to get yellow green, and apply the yellow green to the surface. All right. You see that I have to mix just a little bit more blue and yellow together to make green, just so I can have enough on my palette to load my brush. So starting again, blue, yellow to make green. I have a little bit more blue in there. I'm gonna clean my brush, add more yellow to obtain that yellow green that I'm looking for. Just trying to stay in the lines here, right in between the two colors. Let that dry, and later on add a new layer to it. I'll do one more tertiary color for y'all to see, just to get the idea. So now I'm gonna add just a little bit more red to my orange to make red orange. I'm gonna lay out the red orange in its respected spot. And what you're gonna do is just fill up that spot fully, wait for it to dry again, add another layer later, just to get the opaqueness down. And you'll just be doing this for every other tertiary color for this assignment. Hope this helps.